So, guys, thank you very much for joining us for this bonus episode. If you haven't already, please go and listen to episode 75, where George and I gave our spoiler-free reports of Guardians 3. We wanted to talk about some specific elements of the plot. So this is a spoiler warning. If you haven't read the title of this podcast and you haven't seen Guardians, please come back after you've seen it. We want to just share some specific details about the plot, what we liked, what we didn't like, where we think this whole thing is going. But yeah, sort of straight into the ending.
Yeah.
How did you find it? You said you really liked it.
I really liked every single way they wrote the character's conclusion. I like the fact with Quill and Gamora, you don't have this resolution where they rediscover each other.
Yeah. I realised quite early on they weren't going to do that. And it wasn't going to be like the 80s love tunes and here's what we did to save you. No,
and it's this idea that, like, you know, he says, like, you know, you're not the person you were, but the person you are is also perfect. You are still growing. And what I like, and probably the only reason that Sylvester Stallone is in the film, he represents her family.
Yeah.
So the film's whole, she goes back to the Ravagers and she's welcomed. It's like, welcome home. And it's like, oh, she still has her family. She still has her place. It's just not the Guardians this time.
There is a really dark undertone where, you know, Peter Quill is, you can tell through the whole film, like, he's not going to lose Rocket. He's lost Gamora.
Yeah.
He's lost his parents.
Yes.
Like, he is not willing to let Rocket go. There's this moment where we really think Rocket is gone and they didn't make it. And Peter Quill is like a really dark place that we've never really seen him before, except maybe when Gamora dies, and he's just completely he like screams, and there's this real moment of darkness, and I just thought that's a really smart.
I liked the little joke.
He is like that. So you know what? Sorry, the point I made about in the main review about there's so much has happened to these characters. You have to carry that baggage and use it in a way that works. It's like so much has happened to Peter Quill. This is how you use it and make that character feel really relevant in this movie.
I think sometimes Star-Lord has come across a little bit annoying, and especially in Infinity War,
and he like caused the problem.
But he admits that. So he makes jokes. Says,
"Oh, then I my temper and punch Thanos in the face." And
like, kind of kill half the universe. So I loved that. I loved the whole Rocket arc. It's great, and like, the bits of gruesomeness I'm talking about when he scratches the guy's face, then the High Evolutionary, and then it's revealed, and then he's got that horrible Harvey Dent like eyeball.
Oh yeah, it really was. Yeah,
and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's nasty.
The whole thing with Tooth's Floor and Lila, and like the moment when he's been carved up for the first time. And he's in this horrible cage with nuts and bolts, and he's just, you can tell like he's just shaking violently from pain. And Lila's like, does he have words? Because they all know that they come into these things with words. And he's got like a shaved scalp with stitches, and the first word he says is hurts.
Yeah.
And it just completely breaks your heart.
And the CGI animators know exactly what they're doing. The huge eyes.
Camera zoom in.
It is the Paddington eyes.
The symmetrical
Uncle Pastuzo.
It just breaks your heart, and the fact that these characters all sit together and they give each other their names for the first time, and they dream of like going up to the stars.
It's simple.
I saw the death coming from a mile away. And the scene in Purgatory, when like Lila is welcome and you see Tooths and Floor, and he just goes up to her, and it's like all he ever wanted was to just like be across the stars with them. And then she's like, that's what I thought he was going to die. I was like, if Rocket goes and Peter Quill never gets him back, and he learns this lesson that maybe he was never meant to get Rocket back because like loss is a consequence of it. That's why I was like, come on, go for it.
It is still a family blockbuster.
It's still a family blockbuster. And when Lila's like, not yet. You are and it's quite interesting in a modern film to do a real purgatory scene. Like, really, we're going to do between the worlds of heaven and our reality, and then you're just going to get sucked back in.
I really liked that. I loved
when Rocket when they get attacked and Rocket tries to unlock them and he shoots and he doesn't get hit, and then he just turns back and he just sees Tooths and completely killed.
Yeah.
Just heartbreaking.
So the whole handling of that is great, and I do like the fact that like at the end this sort of Guardians element that he's now the captain. I love that.
Yeah.
The bits with Groot I loved. Groot obviously has a visual arc.
Yes.
And now he's the Swole version. But I loved the hiding the guns inside his torso.
Fantastic. And that moment where he do the back-to-back, but he's got 8 vines doing
and the kaiju moment. But the bit where he jumps out and he grows wings.
I was
fantastic.
Like, that's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Loved. And actually, that's my point. I love that bit of it where it's like him and Quill over there. You've got Nebula down there. Nebula not annoying in this film.
Oh, God. I
sometimes she's quite annoying.
I really loved Karen Gillan's Nebula, and everyone felt like a really fully realised. I really enjoyed all of them. There was no one else like they're kind of Nebula's a little bit moody and a little bit dour. She was lovely.
And seeing like Mantis, like sometimes I've always been like, why are you here? Because you don't really have a power. You can kick people, but like you were there because of ego. But now she brings so much. The empathy is really important. Yeah, really useful character. And and she is just a great presence, and Pom Klementif is just so funny. Has a really good. Peter, what are you doing?
Dave Bautista is so funny. Yeah. Like no one can give him enough credit for just his delivery, and he's got his own brand. Or like he's really made that character his own, and I can't imagine anyone else doing that character. He's just brilliant in it.
He's really, it's all in his eyes and just
just like the stone cold delivery.
And Chris Pratt, as you're saying,
Chris Pratt
excels as Star-Lord.
I really wish Chris Pratt could have played Nathan Drake in a proper Uncharted film. He'd be perfect for it. And I think the reason he hasn't done it is because he's doing a very similar role as Peter Quill. But he's just Nathan Drake through and through. And the whole idea of like, I've got a plan, and the plan's going to go this way, but we all know it's not going to go that way. But all the Guardians coming together to make it work is always really funny.
The thing with Adam Warlock as well, like towards the end, I was like, what? He's indestructible. Like, what's going on? He gets stabbed through the center at the beginning, and then he gets blown up, and I'm like, because every time there was like really serious stakes, I was like, oh my god, I think that Rocket's going to get killed. They're trying to save people, and then like. Will Poulter will walk in his pants. And I'll be like, oh, what are you still doing in this film?
I think there's a problem with vague invulnerability. If a character is invulnerable to damage, it needs to be really like discussed and a part of why they're there. I think if someone just turns up and they can just take an infinite number of punches, it's kind of just a little bit boring and, well, I'm never really worried about them.
But I did enjoy that scene at the beginning where he arrives and each one of them has their turn fighting with him.
Groot, when he's like hurt Racket, Groot really like tries to fuck him up. He's like, that's my boy. And he like wraps him up and tries to choke him in vines and flies off. And Groot really sort of.
And I love, and even like, I don't remember Cosmo the dog being in Guardians, but even like Cosmo the dog and Kraglin have this like scene towards the end of like their arc gets wrapped up with the
she's
the
called a bad dog and she just cannot take it. It's so
and
good.
I don't know, and like the scene of like the animal rescue at the end, like, I was just like, you gotta do it. My girlfriend was laughing because then you have this like whole menagerie, this whole zoo, like everyone's running with the birds, and
it's like 12 raccoons,
and then, like the monkey jumps on the woman's face.
Like a kangaroo.
The woman jumps on the woman's That's what I enjoyed. I know what you mean about. Sorry, what you were saying before. I know what you mean about the death thing of like Quill like freezing out in space.
Like that moment with Quill where I go, has Quill really got anything left to be? If the Guardians are, like, I really do feel like what the Guardians were is kind of lost. Everything has changed now. He has been able to save his friend. It could have worked. Like thematically, for Peter Quill to die. So when you tease me 2 hours and 15 minutes into your film, that's all about letting go, death, goodbyes, really sort of making a statement for what you fight for. He's not getting back Gamora. He's actually ready to die. Yeah. And then you have this whole moment, like you really sort of go for it. Like, holy shit, Peter Quill has given Raccoon his last wish, which is saving all the animals, and he's not made it. And he's running, and he's floating through the vacuum of space. And you slow the camera, you slow the music, reactions, and then he doesn't. I'm a little bit annoyed by it.
I think...
I could tell he was going to be saved pretty quickly.
But I think, although he didn't die, that's him being like, I need to retire. That's his retirement plan kicking in. That's when he just goes, I need to go back to Earth, hang out with my grandpa, who's played by the same actor he was in the first scene of The Guardians in 2014, which was a nice touch. Doesn't look 95. He looks about 75. Yeah. But like, sure.
I will say, I know it's a Marvel film, and you know the science is science. They probably need to better define how the laws of a vacuum in space work. Well, because there was a moment where Adam Warlock just... They're in the vacuum of space, and Adam Warlock just flies straight through the windshield of their ship, and they're not sucked out. Everyone can breathe.
But what I will say is that the Guardians those films are actually consistent in their own illogical rules about that, which is that like you can float through the vacuum of space
for a good 30 seconds before dying.
You don't implode and immediately turn to paste.
You just get pustules.
Yeah, you just get you blow and you get a little bit frozen. You get a little bit cold.
A little bit.
Did you not like it when he's floating through? Sorry, and Groot tries to stretch
out
his hands.
That. Yeah, that's so again, like Groot does the thing that like, why wouldn't Groot just reach out and then his vines freeze? I'm like, they're gonna kill him, but
no, he's the only one who's coming back as well. At the end of the film, the legendary Star-Lord
will
return.
Because I thought we had a very cool... sorry, go on.
No.
I thought we had a very cool moment when, even though I felt like the film was dragging by that point, which I mentioned in my full review, when the Guardians do come together at the height of their powers...
In the corridor.
As friends, all using each other's powers and strengths in that corridor fight scene.
Loved it.
I think that was definitely shot on IMAX in large format, in wide, and it's a one continuous shot all the way through. Vines, that, it's just brilliant.
That was the point. I was like, I'm having a great time with this film.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it. Despite really Mr. Draggy Dragism over there,
I did find it.
I was like, this is I'm having a really good time. So And yeah, I just think it was a really satisfying conclusion, and I'm really glad that James Gunn is basically saying to Marvel, you have to end some of your stuff.
Yes.
You think you can't have it run on and run on and run. Otherwise, it becomes a soap opera or a telenovela. Right?
I'm interested to see, looking forward, what part they have in an upcoming Avengers film, because I wonder if you do unite them in the same way you did for three and four. You did that trick. Is this about new characters? I know Fantastic Four is coming.
I think that the only one that's going to come back will be Peter Quill, because just judging by the credits, I think they've left those characters. Now, I also don't think that a lot of those talent will want to do anything without James Gunn involved.
I know what you mean.
I think they've all said, that's it now, we've done it for James.
Done 3 films.
Half of those actors are going to go over to DC and work with James Gunn over there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Pom Clemente has basically said that, and Sean Gunn's his brother, so why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people in Guardians 3 were James Gunn's friends from the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So, I think it'll just be Peter Quill, and it'll be like him on Earth coming out of retirement kind of thing.
But I've mentioned this pet peeve before, months ago, about pretending your character is about to die and then saving them at the last minute. I find that very annoying, and they did it twice in this movie. So you build up.
But it comes to the territory.
No. Like you either save your character. You either have them be saved. Like, I don't like it when films do this thing where the character's running, they're trying to make it, and they fall, and it's the music and the stops, and you get reaction of someone who's dead, reaction of someone else, oh my God, they're dead, reaction, somber music comes in, and then someone lifts them up and they're saved.
Yeah, but
I find that really, really annoying. Because when this film is the tone it has, I'm like, oh wow, they're going to be bold, they're going to do that. They're going to get rid of that person. I love how brave it's being, consequence. And then you do that twice in your movie, it does annoy me. Because I can see it coming. I'm like, they're not dying. They're gonna trick you for 6. I just think it's really cheap. So again, in Avengers Infinity War, when Thanos guts Tony Stark right in the torso, and there's this moment where the music stops, the audience goes quiet, and everything goes quiet, and Tony Stark is like...
And in No Way Home, when Tobey Maguire gets stabbed as well.
Yes, yeah.
No consequence.
It really annoys me. Kill Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Kill Tobey Maguire. He's dead.
But James,
let me finish my point. The audience goes quiet. I'm there watching Infinity War being like, holy shit, they're killing Tony Stark. What a great way to set up the revenge quest of what Endgame is going to be. And then, even though he's been stabbed through the organs, he just goes, oh, nano stitches, I'm fine. Why have that moment if you're not going to kill him?
Because it keeps you suspended. I'm not saying... The thing is, it might not be working for you, but you and I have both seen those videos of audience reactions to stuff online. And you can... Yeah. People do react to that. I think maybe for you, that's a personal thing.
I'm pretty sure that Kang is probably not the big bad. I think the fact that the first Avengers film of this next couple, the first one's called Kang Dynasty, and the second one is called Secret Wars. I think Kang is going to be disposed of in the first one, and there'll be another villain that we don't know about that is in Avengers 6, and I think it's going to be Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom from Fantastic Four. Because he is a threat that is known to be Avengers worthy, and I think with the Fantastic Four, that there will be a greater plan above Kang's. And I think Kang is the villain of the multiverse.
It's building that house of cards quite high.
Yeah.
Fragile to do that.
It's my theory. Because Kang Dynasty is going to be I don't know, you just look at the titles. I feel like that's Kang's movie.
Is Secret Wars, though, about, Skrulls?
Yeah.
No, that's Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
What's the other... Is it
Secret Wars.
It is called Secret Wars.
Secret Wars. Now you're making me doubt myself. Secret Wars. I don't know. I feel like we're being misled.
Guys,
anyway,
that was the spoiler discussion of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If you've seen it, as we said in the main episode, let us know.
If you haven't actually caught our full spoiler-free review, please go and we share many more opinions about our thoughts on the film. Thank you for listening. Don't forget that we post a full episode of the show every single Wednesday, so catch up for that.
Just forgot to say, sorry, 2 more things, Guardians-wise. Again, great soundtrack.
Yeah, always good.
Moving away from the prog rock of the 70s into modern age.
Yes, we've got some early noughties towards the end.
Throughout the film, it starts in the early 70s, but by the end, it's in the late noughties.
There's a moment he scrolls through, almost like a sort of space punk iPod.
The beginning of the film, the colours are very desaturated from the Guardians world.
Yes,
even their costumes are more dour. It's not that kind of bright yellow world we expected in the first one. Anyway, those are our thoughts. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Bye.